School.
Okay, so the clock on the wall is way,
Looking at Mr.
what do you got? I got 2:30.
It's like you clicked all yours.
Okay. Well, that being the case, I propose we get started. I'm going to call the ARSA meeting of May 16th, 2024 to order. It's 2:30 p.m. Would you all please rise for the I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. I will note for the record that we do have a quorum. Supervisor Forrester is not in attendance today, but we have 4 others. And at this time, we'll go to item 3, which is the public forum. Seeing no public here, and since public comment is not allowed on Zoom, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items. Are there any questions or comments in regards to the consent agenda items?
I'll second. I had just a quick question though, on the budget versus actual, the O&M equipment. Is that still the sprinkler stuff that we had to add so we didn't overflow, the stuff, the contingencies that Ione put on
At Preston.
at Preston? Thank you, Jim.
Are you looking at the balance sheet or?
Budget versus actual. O&M equipment is 102, actual budgeted was 54.
No, I mean, it shouldn't be. It should be this year.
What else did we have to add on?
Do you know of any large expenses this year? We're gonna have to
I
get-
know a long time when we were looking at that item, it was the floaty thing and the emergency sprinklers, and I just don't know what it still
Yeah,
is.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, fair enough. I second approving the consent agenda.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We move on then to item 5, the administrative agenda. We're going to receive a verbal update in regards to the ARSA dissolution.
Yeah, so I think Frank, this is. Yep.
While he's getting settled, the reservoir and irrigation report, the last column, it says that the flow to Ione is on. Does this, or can this indicate, when we're getting to the 350?
Yeah, it could.
That might be helpful. See when we have to shut it back off. I have no idea how quickly that goes.
All right, I'll get started. So, wanted to update on the dissolution wind down process. We had originally talked about entering into a separate dissolution agreement. But actually, after kind of looking at it, I think there's a simpler and more efficient way to deal with it, because our current JPA agreement, the one that's currently operative, contemplates that in the event the ARSA were to form a successor special district, essentially that successor would be assume all debts, obligations, liabilities, et cetera, of ARSA. Obviously, that's not happening here, but I thought it would be simpler just to amend the current agreement to make clear that Sutter Creek, since that's the direction that's been given thus far, for Sutter Creek to become the successor and basically deal with, explicitly deal with in the JPA agreement itself, which would have to be amended anyways, to do what the board was looking to do as far as making Sutter Creek essentially the successor in interest for all purposes to ARSA. We'd have had to amend the JPA amendment agreement to do that anyways. So my thought is we basically bake into the JPA what Sutter Creek is assuming and taking on as essentially continue the operations of ARSA, and take that JPA amendment to the members would have to take it to their respective bodies and remember, and they would have to adopt that, which is something that would have been required anyways. And then once they do that, then once all of the certain things have to happen, we're still working on the assignment from CDCR. We've gotten pinged back and forth between CDCR and Department of General Services. And right now, we're trying to close off the litigation, which I'll update you in closed session on, but we're going to revisit that situation in earnest once that litigation issue is handled. So there are some housekeeping things that need to be done, but there needs to be a JPA amendment. I have an amendment drafted. My recommendation is we send that out to the respective parties, their councils, so they can review it, make any potential changes they want, and then that can go before once we have agreement on the language, that can go before the bodies to have that JPA amendment executed. And then once that's done, during that time, Tom can be working on the assignment, any other housekeeping issues. Hopefully the litigation will have resolved itself. We've dealt with the Noble Ranch property already, so some of those issues are done. There's really not a lot more to actually be done. And then there will be a draft resolution, proposed resolution, that I also want the other parties to look at, that will essentially signify that yes, they are agreeing to terminate the JPA and to make authorize Sutter Creek to be the operator and successor to ARSA for all purposes. So it's really just a two-step process. The initial JPA amendment followed back hopefully within a month or two, approval by the bodies with a resolution basically authorizing the termination of the JPA. As you recall, termination of the JPA itself doesn't require a unanimous consent of the member agencies, just 2 of the 3. And I will stipulate in that JPA amendment that one of the 2 have to be the city of Sutter Creek, because we want to just make sure that Sutter Creek is okay with being the operator. And I understand that they are, but we just want to make sure that that's clearly written in the agreement, because you'd hate 2 others can't force a third party to be the successor.
And you sent me that today. I should have printed it, but
Yeah.
I can show it up on screen here.
Sure. Yeah. He has the draft that he's going to put up on the screen. It's a very short amendment.
Frank, I thought that's what we were doing. What's different?
It's very similar, except we took out the extra piece of a separate dissolution agreement.
We're just putting it into a JPA.
We're baking it into the JPA itself.
But it still goes before the board.
That's still,
twice.
because we would have had to take that before the board. Yes, it's still going to be 2, but I think it simplifies the process.
So I don't know if you guys can see that. I can try to make it larger. Can you guys see that?
Kind of. Can you zoom it?
Is this in our board packet?
No, this just came in today. Hang on.
And I'll send you a copy of this after the meeting. Like I said, this is subject to change anyways, because I'm assuming there's going to be yes, this would be the amendments. It would be amending just it would be amendment to 9.1A, 9.1B, and then deleting 9.2, and I can explain why. those provisions relate to the termination, which is 9.1A, and then, what the wind down dissolution processes are as it relates to 9.1B.
So will the city of Sutter Creek then be governed by the ARSA agreement going forward, or is there a way to kind of jettison all of that?
Then that
Yeah.
comes- that's the second step. is what I
Yeah,
read.
so as part of that's why we can't, that's why this does have to happen in two steps. Because one of the things that has to happen is the Sutter Creek has to enter into service agreements with the member agencies, and you obviously, I'm not Sutter Creek's counsel, but it's common sense. You want to make sure those agreements are in place before the ARSA is dissolved. Because Sutter Creek wants to make sure it has viable payment arrangements and, costs
Mhm.
and stuff covered in a service agreement.
So you'll have a new clean agreement then, or?
Sutter Creek will have a new
Yeah.
clean agreement with each party,
Yeah.
and it'll just be a contract. It'll be a service agreement. Think of it that way.
So it won't be this convoluted thing that.
It won't be a JPA.
No one really understands.
No. There are a lot of agencies that have outside service agreement for water or wastewater services, and that's what this will essentially be.
So, I
Not
mean,
reinventing the wheel here.
this is pretty surgical if you look at the JPA changes. It's just,
Yeah, and I will send the board, this is a draft, and I anticipate there's gonna be some red lines proposed by Sutter Creek or, the city or the county, but essentially what it's doing is, it's really, since we're at the 1 yard line as far as the dissolution process, it's really baking into this agreement the very clear immediate next steps. Normally for a JPA agreement, since it's a governance document, you don't get down to this level of detail. But since we know what the horizon is immediately in front of us, and then ARSA goes away, we're just putting that into the JPA amendment. So essentially what 9.1A is doing is making clear that, the agreement is in place until it's terminated by a majority of the members. That's the same language that we have in the current agreement. Then we say that, should City of Sutter Creek become the successor in interest for all purposes pursuant to the paragraph below, Sutter Creek must be one of such members agreeing to terminate, and that's just to protect Sutter Creek. Because you don't want them to be foisted upon to have to provide the services, even though that's the intent of all the parties. So that's all 9.1A is doing. 9.1B is making clear that the parties, member agencies may agree to terminate the JPA, to dissolve ARSA, and authorize the city of Sutter Creek to succeed ARSA. And then we make clear that upon completion of all such assignments and or transfers of all of ARSA's rights, duties, blah, 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 to the city of Sutter Creek. And notice in there includes monies and property, both real and personal. Again, the intent, as far as I understand it, is that Sutter Creek is just assuming, for good, better, or worse, and ugly, for all of the above, Sutter Creek's assuming the implementation of the regional wastewater system that ARSA has assumed. Now, that doesn't mean that Sutter Creek has to operate it exactly the way that ARSA was. It just means that they're the project lead, so to speak. And so it transfers it to Sutter Creek as a successor in interest. And then ARSA will dissolve and terminate as set forth above. And in that event, Sutter Creek, this is just restating again to make it very clear, they have the legal power and authority to be the successor in interest to ARSA for all purposes. And the Sutter Creek shall then operate, maintain, and pay for the regional outfall and assume all duties. Regional outfall is a defined term in the JPA agreement. It's just, again, it's describing the regional wastewater system, and assume all duties previously borne by ARSA as its successor in interest. And then I just put in that last sentence, just as the avoidance of doubt, nothing precludes the city of Sutter Creek from entering into separate agreements or arrangements with the city of Amador City or the county of Amador with respect to costs for such wastewater treatment services. So that's just a long-winded way of saying, just because they're assuming O&M of these facilities and they're performing these functions, that doesn't mean that Sutter Creek can't charge any customers for it. That's all that's saying.
Is
And
it- Is it really the county of Amador that? we-
Well,
the
that's
only- or
technically
the
that's
water
still,
agency?
that's still technically the party in the nineteen
Oh,
eighty-two
with the
agreement.
Agreement, okay, so that's.
So,
Okay.
you know, that is, and then 9.2, I just deleted it because it was essentially 9.2 said that's, uh, if, if, if it ARSA dissolves, the monies need to go back to the member agencies in a pro rata share, and the parties have to figure out what property, whether it's real property or personal property, gets divided. But here, because the idea is all of it is going to Sutter Creek, or, you know, for good, bad, or worse, or indifferent, there was no reason to have that section 9.2. It was better to delete it, and we just combined all of that language in 9.1B, which is the paragraph we just went over.
Frank, shouldn't it say Amador Water Agency instead of?
Well, we just said that.
The problem is the current agreement,
No.
which is operative from 1982, it explicitly is County of Amador, that is
Okay.
the party.
All right.
So that's pretty much it. Like I said,
At, at what point does this draft, or maybe it already has, does it go to the council of the county and city of Amador?
so after this meeting, my goal was to be able to send a draft to the respective parties and their council. And I assume there will be some fine tuning in the language, some red lines.
Mhm.
But I will obviously want to take it to this board because you are all effectively the liaisons for those bodies, and you can, you know, answer questions and help them understand it. I wanted to obviously get your buy-in first.
Do you want to
But
talk through this resolution?
yeah, and then this resolution is, this would happen, you know, the current agreement says the parties have to agree to dissolve, but you don't necessarily have to have a written agreement to do that. You could express your agreement by way of other legislative action, i.e. a resolution. That's what I thought would be the simplest here. And essentially, this is a template resolution that I would propose to send, that let's assume the JPA agreement is amended as we just went over, and then some housekeeping things are done. We have the assignment taken care of, the litigation's taken care of, City of Sutter Creek and the member agencies have their service agreements ready to go. So assuming those housekeeping things done, then the parties are able to essentially agree to terminate and dissolve the ARSA and authorize City of Sutter Creek to become ARSA's successor in interest for all purposes. So that resolution would then be approved by the bodies the second later date, after the JPA amendment is done. And this is some proposed language to that effect. And we could tweak, you know, exactly when it becomes effective. One way is to do what I wrote there, which is it's effective immediately on the date the second member agency adopts a resolution to this effect, or we could just make it a date that a date after, you know, 30 days after the second member agency approves it, or something like that. So
Does this new plan change the timeline at all?
I think it accelerates it a little bit. You know, it depends on when the respective bodies approve the JPA amendment, B, when the service agreements and stuff are in place from Sutter Creek's perspective, and assuming we get that assignment done, which shouldn't take too long. If it's May, if the JPA amendment gets approved by the bodies in June, you could have the resolution approved by the bodies, hopefully August, September.
I think the biggest step is gonna be the service
Yes.
agreements.
Yes. Yeah. That is. That's the one that requires the most heavy lifting at this point. Everything else is, you know, the other reason why we initially had the dissolution agreement, because there were a lot more balls in there at the time. So I wanted to make sure all those things, but those things are sort of falling into place now anyways, and they're becoming moot. So at this point, I don't think we need that separate piece.
So do you want a motion that we send this to?
I don't think I need a motion. I'm looking just for your consensus direction that the path forward as described is a good one, and we will start working with city attorney, county council, those type of folks to revise it and so they can recommend it to their, bodies,
So you'll send this,
to Derek.
won't go to the councils for edits and then come back to the councils for approval. It'll go to the staff of the cities and the.
Yeah, so I'll probably send it to the attorney and they'll talk to whoever they want to internally.
And decide if they want it to go to the council
Yeah, it is gonna have to go to the governing bodies.
for approval.
For
but not
approval. No, I think that's mostly a staff thing.
Yeah.
Just because it's another meeting.
Oh, 100%. I don't think it needs to be unless a city or county wants to,
So talk to Chuck Eiley and maybe you could copy the city managers and the county exec when you send
Okay.
that. And Dave Gross.
okay. All right, so that's all I need.
Okay,
Thank you, Frank.
thank you. That takes us to item number 6, the general manager's report. Tom?
Yeah, I just had three things. So first I put it in the packet, on the past billing with Ione. I gave you guys the copy of the letter and the table of the invoices that have been paid and unpaid. We did incur about $350,000 of additional expense that in 2022 when they didn't take water. And so because of that, I proposed not paying anything in 2022, but paying the rest of the invoices. Turns out there's also a state water permit for the Castle Oaks Golf Course that they have paid for years, and they stopped paying for the last 2 years. And so,
It's their portion of it, right?
no,
It's not the-
it's
is it a
really the
total
whole
permit?
thing.
Okay.
It's a pass through. I don't know why it comes to ARSA. I guess ARSA has the permit with the state for putting the water on the golf course. But it went back to at least 2017, 2016. They've been paying this.
I think longer than that. to be honest.
Probably longer than that. I think that was what was in
Easily
QuickBooks when I
documented.
asked Mason to pull it out. Yeah, so when I did the math, it ended up they actually owed us money. I think George Lee, the city manager, was a little surprised. We've been talking, we talked several times. He's talked to him today as well. So he's just, talking to folks, gathering information, but I think he and I are going to work it out. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of what was going on. We have pretty open communication at this point. Second thing was we had the first operational meeting, I guess, in a while. No attorneys were present. No offense to Frank.
No, probably got a lot more done.
Yeah. So it was a good opportunity. I think everybody, some people knew each other. There were some new faces. I think it was good kind of clearing the air. ARSA said, we want to dispose 300 acre feet this season. We want to do the Henderson under drain repair. We plan on getting rid of about 60 acre feet in the spray fields. And we think with that, we can get the level down where we can do the repairs. CDCR is running spray fields now, and they think they can get rid of about 150 acre feet on their spray fields. But they also want to do about 250 acre feet through Ione. So that's a total of 550. And really what Ione's been able to do practically is usually around 500. So we still have 50 acre feet kind of gap. So what we all agreed is we're going to do our best to get rid of as much water as we can elsewhere. We're going to meet again in a couple of weeks and see how the flows are going. So right now, Ione is taking ARSA water. So again, I think this is the fundamental challenge that has kind of blown up in the past is there's these commitments to take more water than they can. But again, I think everybody recognized the need and we're going to try to figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is CDCR sending theirs straight to Ione or through the reservoir?
Right now, CDCR is just using spray fields on their own property.
When's
But
their
they
turn?
they
When
probably
should
would-
send-
Sorry.
The other,
They probably will be sending through the bypass.
Yeah, absolutely.
okay, because we don't have the
Correct.
safety water in our
Correct.
Right.
Contaminated water.
Is there, was the topic of the quality of the CDCR water, did that?
Yeah,
up?
so then the next topic, we talked about VOCs.
Making a statement.
CDR said they test for VOCs weekly, which is the first time I heard that. I think we would have loved to have seen some of that data. But we all agree we're going to be transparent. We're going to bring our VOC data to the next meeting and share it. We've been,
Have you told them yet they have VOCs in their reservoir?
they say that their levels are below acceptable levels as well, but we'll see. And we're going to bring their data. We've been do testing quarterly, so we're going to try to do another test to have it ready for this next meeting.
Have we tested Preston ourselves? Okay.
Yeah, we should probably try to test. near
Yeah,
the-
because the assertion is that Preston is contaminated and that we did it. Do we even know for sure that Preston is contaminated? We're just taking their word for it, or are they testing it at the Preston outflow?
I
or-
think they tested at the
or the
Ione
inflow.
inflow, but we should test at the Preston Reservoir somehow. So maybe we can do that on this next test.
Do they sample in different spots? Or do you just sample in one spot?
You want to be consistent.
The complaint that I've heard is when they tested at their plant, they tested in a poor spot. Um,
Okay.
so again,
for who?
it's a place where you're not supposed to really take a sample because things can build up there. Again, this is all kind of hearsay. So anyways, I felt like,
About a tertiary.
yeah, at their plant. So again, it seemed like a positive start. We can give you guys an update at the next meeting.
Good.
And
Operations meeting cover any of the new plans or proposed plans or budget for what I own needs to upgrade?
no, and I'm thinking at the op level, these are the guys that run the plant. I'm thinking we probably need to have another meeting with, the people who worry about the financing and that kind of stuff. So there were two people from CDCR, the engineer and the wastewater plant operator. And the Ione contracted plant operator, who, their plant looks extremely modern compared to ours. And he was complaining about how old things were and they need to replace a lot of stuff there. And then the Ione city manager was there and I was there. So I'm thinking maybe we should have a separate group of like the city managers and the assistant warden in charge. Because I think that will be the next step is all the new plans, all the new equipment they're talking about. And how do those costs, get allocated? And then the last part is I had met with all the supervisors except for Brian Oneto. I did finally sit down and talk with him. And then, I've had casual discussions with Amador city manager and AWA, but sitting down with AWA next week to start to talk about the customer agreement going forward. That's it.
All right. Any other questions for the general manager? Seeing none, we're going to now move into closed session, and then we will come back out and report.